What if one night had the power to change your life? A billionaire enters a quiet restaurant for a straightforward lunch, only to be met with a mystery that has plagued him for years. Is now the time that fate offers him another chance? One of the wealthiest men in the nation, Damon Cross, appeared to have it all. He had enormous estates, private planes, and a business empire that stretched around the world. But none of it could make up for the void that had grown inside of him 10 years prior when he lost his greatest treasure, his daughter Lily. She had been 8 years old when she vanished during a family vacation to the country. One minute she was playing by the river, and the next she was gone. Damon had looked everywhere, hired investigators, conducted extensive searches, and stayed up many nights hoping for a call with good news. But nothing had arrived as of yet. 10 years later, he was a man tormented by regret. Had he acted sooner that night, carrying the burden of his loneliness? Might he have done more to save her? The restaurant was warm and inviting, with soft yellow lights creating a cozy atmosphere, and the scent of freshly baked bread and sizzling food filling the air. Damien made the decision to leave the opulent but empty mansion and drove to a small, unassuming restaurant that he had passed many times, but had never entered because he didn't want the glitz of upscale dining. This was the kind of place where people came to unwind, far removed from the cold boardrooms and opulent hotels. Usually, Damien sat at a table by the window that overlooked the busy street outside. As the sounds of quiet conversations and clinking dishes filled the room, Damon's mind wandered to Lily. What would she look like now? Was she safe? Had something terrible happened to her? Would he ever find her? Even after all these years, he couldn't give up hope. As Damon sat in silence, a waitress, a young woman, probably in her mid-20s, with auburn hair tied back and a tired but courteous smile, came into his table. "Good evening, sir. Could I please take your order?" she requested, one hand carrying a notepad. Damon looked up, nodded, and was ready to reply when he noticed a slight crescent-shaped scar on her forearm. He remembered clearly that Lily had fallen off her bicycle when she was 6, scraping her arm on the pavement. The scar had remained with her, a tiny curved mark that he used to kiss whenever she sobbed about it. His breath caught, and his heart skipped a beat. That scar was exactly like the one Lily had on her arm. The waitress questioned again, raising her head slightly. Dien stared at her, his mind racing. Could it be a coincidence? Or was this scar something more? Was this young woman related to his daughter? Or was his mind playing cruel tricks on him? Damon pulled himself out of his daze and said, "I'll have a coffee and the pasta special." His voice was a little wavering, but she nodded and took note of the order before leaving. Her movements between tables were followed by Damien's gaze. As he waited for his order, Damien couldn't stop staring at the waitress as she worked, noting how she smiled at customers and moved with quiet efficiency. Every detail made him more certain and more afraid that she was Lily. How did she end up here? Why didn't she recognize him? And what had happened to her in the 10 years since she vanished when the waitress brought his coffee? Her mannerism was strangely familiar, and his hands trembled slightly as he gripped the edge of the table. She put the cup in front of him, smiled politely, and left, leaving Damien alone with his thoughts. He wanted to ask her about the scar and tell her who he was, but fear stopped him. What if he was wrong? What if she wasn't Lily and he was just setting himself up for heartbreak? "Thank you," he said quietly. Damon took an old photo out of his wallet. He always had one of Lily with him. He put a picture on the table and stared at it as memories came flooding back. Could it be that the universe had brought him here tonight for a reason? Could this be his chance to finally find a daughter he had lost by the time? Tak was smiling brightly a few days before she vanished in the photo, her golden curls framing her face and her arm visible in the picture bearing the same crescent-shaped scar. When the waitress came back to bring him the bill, Damien's mind was racing, and he couldn't leave without knowing the truth. He looked up at her, his heart thumping, and said, "Excuse me," in a steady but tense voice. "May I ask your name?" The waitress hesitated, her expression perplexed by the question. Lily. But she eventually smiled slightly. Damon's world came to a halt, and he felt as though lightning Lily had struck his heart. He said this softly, barely able to speak, and his eyes were full of tears as he stared at her. Could this really be her? Could fate have brought him here tonight to reunite with the daughter he thought he had lost forever? The waitress looked at him, perplexed by his reaction, and asked, "Is something wrong?" Her smile faded a little, and Damon shook his head, quickly wiping his tears. "No," he said, his voice trembling. "Nothing's wrong. Thank you, Lily." Damon sat frozen in his seat, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and fear. Was this waitress really his daughter? And if so, why didn't she recognize him? Damien couldn't leave this diner without learning the truth. That much was certain. As the waitress Lily left, Damien Cross sat in the dimly lit restaurant, his hands shaking. The name rang in his head like a bell, each ringing with terror and hope. Was this a sad coincidence? Or might this really be his daughter? A name and scar that weren't associated with the little girl he had lost. The picture of Lily was on the table in front of him, and as he stared at it, his heart raced and memories came flooding back. He remembered how she used to tilt her head when she was curious, laugh, and hold her little hand in his. The waitress had done the same thing just moments before, but why didn't she recognize him? And if she was Lily, how did she end up working as a waitress in a small town? After 10 years of searching, hoping, and grieving, Diner Danon's thoughts went awry. Could this typical evening in a diner really bring in the end he had wished for? Or was he holding on to hopeless dreams? As the restaurant started to empty out, Damien knew he couldn't leave without talking to her once more. Gathering his courage, he walked up to the counter where Lily was sorting receipts. He said softly, his voice shaking, "Yes, sir. Is everything okay?" She looked up, surprised by his presence. He hesitated, tightening his throat. "Your name is Lily. Do you know we got that name?" Her brow furrowed in confusion. "I don't really know," she admitted. "I grew up in foster care." He asked gently if you remembered anything about your family before entering foster care. Lily hesitated, her eyes flickering uncertainly, but she said, "I have these flashes sometimes a garden someone calling my name, but it's all so blurry like a dream. They told me I was found near a river when I was little, but I don't remember much before that." Daniel's chest-tightened river was the same one where Lily had vanished all those years ago. The picture that made all the difference. With trembling hands, Damien took the picture he had cared about for 10 years out of his pocket and laid it on a counter in front of her. "This is you," he whispered softly. "You're my daughter. You vanished 10 years ago, Lily, and I've been looking for you ever since." As Lily looked at the picture, her hands shook as she lifted it. Her eyes grew wide, and her breathing became erratic. She muttered, "Look at the scar on her arm. I don't understand." Pointing to the identical photo, Damien remarked, "I was there when you fell off your bike when you were 6. I carried you home and told you that you would heal, but it left a mark. Your scar is that." As she gazed at the picture, memories of a sunny day with a man holding her hand and the sound of running water came flooding back to her. She recalled falling and saying, "There was water everywhere. I was calling for someone, but no one came." Damon's voice cracked as he said, "I was there. I called for you. I searched everywhere for you. I never stopped." Lily's legs felt frail as her memories became more distinct. She added in a whisper, "You're my dad." And Damon pulled her into his embrace. "You're my Lily." For the first time in 10 years, Damon felt the weight of 10 years of separation and suffering melt away from his shoulders. He felt whole again, a dark shadow, but as the joy of their reunion subsided, questions started to creep into Damien's head. "I missed you so much that I thought I'd lost you forever." They held each other tightly, their tears blending. "Do you remember who found you and took you to foster care?" he said gently. "Lily." Lily scowled, her face hazy, and she explained slowly that a woman had located me by the river and informed me that my family wouldn't be returning for me. Someone had purposefully kept Lily away from him. But why did she ever tell your name? Damon's jaw tightened. Lily shook her head no, but one day she vanished, and the neighbors phoned the police, which is how I ended up in foster care. As Damon and Lily sat in his car that night on their way back to his mansion, Damien's hands clenched into fists. Who was this woman? Why had she lied to Lily and kept her concealed? And where was she now? Lily spoke curiously as she saw a package on the passenger seat that was UN marked and had no return address. Damien scowled and said, "I don't know, I didn't leave it there." He carefully opened the package and found one envelope with a note that said, "You found her, but you don't know the whole story. Stop digging or you regret it." When Damien saw who had delivered the note and what they were concealing, his heart fell. As Lily examined the note, her hands shook. What does it imply, and what do we know? As they drove into the night, father and daughter got ready for a fight. Their reunion had brought them joy, but it also opened the door to a deeper mystery that would test their bond and reveal truths for which neither of them was ready. Damon's eyes hardened with determination. "I don't know yet," he said, "but whoever kept you from me is trying to keep their secrets buried. I won't let them find the truth together."